I am Susan Lenart, and I have been a jeweler for over 35 years, trained as an artist. And for the past 5 years, I have been working and studying gems. So I've worked with all different kinds of materials, but lately the gems get me so excited. So I've been studying not only how gems are made, how each individual gem is made, but the different cuts, the clarity of it, the carats of them. And so through all that, it's like I found that there's many, many different styles. And I'm here to talk to you today about just this type of pieces that are square or have edges on them, and they need to be set a little bit more precise, right? Like squares, rectangles, triangles. So if you're running into things like that, like for instance, I just did a gem drop on my own site where I actually curate my own personal gem sets on there. And I drop pieces like this is actually a blue zircon. And what I loved about it is just the cuts. It reminds me of like taffy that's just broken afterwards. And I'm loving just the settings that I'm getting with these type of pieces. And this here is the same type of style. This is a citrine that's done with, just these great edges like this that I love so much. So these actually, what I want to show you today are setting some of the squares. So here's this, and here is some pieces that I've already done. You can see I consider the gems that we need the real precise edges for are triangles, squares, right here, rectangles. So these are some that I've already done. And so this here is a pink opal, amethyst. This is honey quartz. That is beautiful. Or this one is amethyst. Here's a nice honey quartz. I'll be doing one similar to this today. Lemon quartz, amethyst. So I want to say this, you can see this setting right here. It is a triangle, but this actually has a little bit of the rounded edges on there. So I do want to say when you're setting your stones, you're going to find circles and ovals of medium size are the easiest to set, right? I always start, in fact, with my intentional metalsmithing, silversmithing program that I have, I always just show ovals and circles and just done because they're, and medium size because they're the easiest pieces to work in that way. So this one is a little bit easier. But what about when you want to get into these beautiful areas that have nice fitted edges and other things like that going on? Well, that's what I want to show you today. Also with gems, you guys, there's a bunch of different ways to set them. Many times what I do is I cut out the back, and that goes to say for the triangles and squares too. So I have a couple different techniques on here. I show putting foil back behind so it'll bring up the quality and the sharpness and the beauty of it. Or you can cut out the back, especially if they're earrings, and you just get to see the gorgeous light shining through, the faceted pieces here. So this is just some of the ideas that I work with. So here's some that are done. And so what I want to talk to you about right now, the important things like how do you set a good square setting, right? Tricky, or a good uneven pieces, So the way that you do that, what I work with is I work with fine silver, because fine silver is the softest, actually a dead soft, so it'll be dead soft. So you want to look for dead soft fine silver. That these are the 3 different sizes here, and you want to look for some of the thinnest gauge when you're working on pieces like this. There's 2 different ways to do this, but I'm going to show you this way first. Another time I'll show you where you go in and score the edges, measure them out, but this time I want to show you a little quicker way. This actually if I'm working with fine silver for my bezel wire, you want to order, this is a 1/4 inch in the height or in the width. This is a 1/4 inch. So this is about the biggest I found that, it's a little bit harder to find anything over a 1/4 inch. So this is about the biggest you're going to find. And these fit these big gems beautifully. And I'll show you how to measure. Maybe we could get to that other one and I'll show it right here. I'm going to show you how to. So with this on the side, I'm going to put my gem on the side, and then I'm just going to take my bezel wire and hold it here, and I can see if it clears. So this 1/4 inch is going to be a really good bezel height for this piece here, because it really just clears. And sometimes if I'm not convinced, I just flip it over and put it up next to my piece, and you guys necessarily won't be able to see that great, but oh my gosh, this is a beautiful, beautiful wire. This is a beautiful bezel setting wire for this piece, and I'll just have a little tiny bit of it, forming over the edge. I'll have to burnish a little bit over the edge. So that's how you want to look at, how to set your bezel. So this is about the largest that it comes. If I want to go any larger than this 1/4 inch, I just buy sheets of fine silver and I just cut it oh so carefully, right, with my slicer. So another important factor on the width. So we decided 1/4 is going to work well. The dimension, which means how thick your piece is in here, the dimension is the second factor you want to consider. So it's always like a 1/4. And this, when I'm working with this today, I'm going to, the smallest dimension is a 0.010. So that's what I'm working with today. I love this type of thinness. This is the thinnest that you really have the option to work with in silver. But the reason why I love this is because I can bend this around my pieces so easily. I can get a nice, beautiful squared off edge so easily. So that's what I like about it. So, this what I want is, just what you need for your bezel wire. I'm going to use a little bit of sterling silver that is 24 gauge that I have. This is just a scrap that I have, but that's all I need. I can look at my gem and see that's all I need. And for these it'd be smaller. Next I'll do these on another video. This one's going to be so much fun. And then I'll show you how to also, well, we'll talk about that one when we get to the next video. I'm a person, I like to jump ahead, right? Okay, so that's the two pieces that we need. When you're working with this really fine dimensional silver, what you're going to want to do is really, the way I talk about soldering, and if you guys haven't gotten in and done a piece yet, you want to go watch Making Silver Bezels on my website. That's like introducing you to the tools and the whole philosophy of soldering. So with this philosophy, when I'm putting these two pieces together, 98% of my heat is going to go under, because this 24 gauge sterling silver, it needs a lot more heat than my fine silver, really thin dimensional piece here. So that's really is the secret to soldering. If you haven't done much of it, or you want to tackle something like this, is just figuring out the point of where most of the heat has to go. So it's just a percentage thing, like 98% of the heat here, 3% there. That's all it's about. Okay. And, actually getting everything precise, right? Okay, so I'm going to put these aside. I'm going to use this small piece here, and I just really have a small piece of this left. But so what I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure my edge is completely straight. So I'm going to hold it straight up and down, and then I bring in my pliers, and I just make sure it's nice and flat. And the way you can see if your piece is flat enough is you just bring in a roller and you line up your piece straight, and you could see I have such a beautiful flat cut. I don't file with fine silver. It's just gonna, this wire isn't strong enough for you to be pulling a file on it back and forth. So I really just try that beautiful, beautiful cut. I can feel it. It looks really good. So now what I'm going to do is I keep it on the full wire. I'm going to move some of these apart, and you want to start your wrap about halfway through right here, and I'm going to bring it around And with this, I'm just gonna make a bend. I'm gonna pull it up and make a bend. So I've got my flat pliers. I'm gonna make a beautiful sharp bend and make sure both sides are nice and flat. See how nice of an angle? So with this really thin wire, I can bend this into a crisp corner. So that's why I love this. If you use thicker wire, yeah, there's just a different method. Okay, now I'm gonna just pull this around the side. You guys can see when you work with jewelry, you have to have these, you know, I work with smaller pieces. Okay, so now I'm gonna go back in. I see where my cut has to be. I'm gonna make sure my pliers are straight, and I'm gonna just press in and give myself a really nice sharp corner. Looks a little bit not very sharp, so hang on. Get you a sharp one. There we go. Nice and sharp. Let's see if that fits. Ooh, beautiful. Nope. I need this edge overloaded. So with this, if I have it in the wrong spot, I can just straighten it out, and it doesn't do, this is such a thin wire, it does not do much damage. Resetting it here. Okay, there we go. And usually I try to get my sharp edges as I go, because if you wait until later, your edges won't be as sharp. So get your super sharp edges as you go. Okay, 1, 2. You want to make sure your wire stays in good shape. That's the only problem with using this real thin gauge. You always have something at one end or the other, you know. When you're working with a thin gauge wire, you have to be very careful with heat. And you have to be careful with bending, because it's really easy to bend out of place. But in the end, you can burnish it so beautifully, and I can get these to bend around really difficult areas. Okay, my last sharp corner is right here. Go in and get this sharp corner right here. Bring in the centers. Okay. See what a beautiful square that's going to be. Okay, now I need to fit it on here. Make sure my piece is nice and flat. Then I'm going to be able to get this in and out. And I'm going to look at it from the side, and I can see exactly where. Here, let me put up here so you guys can see it from the side. I'll put it right here. See? Can you see from the side exactly where I have to put my marker? So I have to make sure my piece is flat. Right here is where this little edge is, and I have to put an exact line right there. Make sure it's flat. Voila. I've got my piece to cut. Voila. Okay, there we go. I have my marked line back to here, and I need to do the straightest cut possible right here. There. Okay. Let's see if this all lines up. I'm going to bring it over here where you can see it closer. It's a little bit off, but I'll get it centered once I get it on here. Nope. I can see this area is a little bit loose, just that little tiny area. So let me cut. Now, you guys, if you have to adjust an area, know that the tiniest bit goes a long way. So here we go. The tiniest bit goes a long way. So here's how I get my bezel together too. Just by pressing my edges. Oh, my neighbors, you guys know I'm in a big artist center here at the screw factory, so sometimes we have a little bit of noise going on. There we go. I can see this is going to be a beautiful fit. See that? So that's how I get in. And let me look through this. Nope. It's a little bit off. I'm going to get myself another little cut here. And sometimes this is what it takes. Okay. Whereas this is what you get to hear. It's fun. Never a boring day in the studio with multiple artists in here. You never know what. I have woodcutters next to me. Okay. Sometimes it's quick, sometimes it takes a little. And this time, it's just taken a little, that's all. But I think I have it. You know that? So even if my edge is not, if it's still rounded a little bit, it's ready to be soldered. Yep. One more time. There. Okay. Perfect. Okay, you guys are going to love it. I'm going to solder it right here. I'll put it over so you guys can see it. Okay, where is my spray? Oh, I have to get my spray. But for now, lavender oil. It's 24. Oh, okay, for now, I'll just use my flux from the paintbrush. There we go. Okay, so the first time in, it's going to be hard. I do have hard sitting in my corners, but I'm going to put a little bit of hard right here, just so you guys can see it. Okay. I pick solder this area. I know if you've watched any of my other videos, I pick solder. Okay. I just need, remember, the smallest of flames because I am really working with just getting into my fine silver. Fine silver doesn't take a lot of heat, but let me turn it up a little tiny bit more. There we go. There's my flame. So let me pick up a piece of my hard that I have here. Okay. And I'm going to heat this piece up. It's fine silver, so I do like just heating the whole piece just a little bit. I'm going to get it on the edge. There we go. My piece went down. Soldered up nice. And you can check by the inside. See how quick that is? Finish it up from here. Going to the inside. There we go. Went all the way down the seam and it's done. Okay. There we go. So pretty. Okay. So now, since it's soldered together, and you guys, for me, what I'll do, I could still see a little bit of the edge. I'm going to go in once my stone is in, and I could take off, get this side sanded pretty good. But I think I'm happy the way it is now. I always, since this is even, I'm not going to worry about, setting it the right way. If I had an uneven stone, I'd have to make sure that everything was perfect from the right direction. But this one is, there we go. There we go. Okay. Nice square. Okay. My next step is I'm going to get my screen out and I'm going to get this burnish down on here. Make sure this is set right. Okay. Now this is still, I want to make sure that I have a really flat side. So if I have a stone, hang on. If I have a stone that's not going to be bothered by the sandpaper, I'll keep it in there. Like this stone won't be scratched, it's a quartz. But sometimes I'll have a soft stone and I don't want it scratched by by the sandpaper. This one won't. So see, fine silver, it's going to be fine. So I'm actually sanding the bottom of this just nice and flat so it will sit so flat on my piece. Or otherwise I can take it separately and sand it. See how it actually could get crunched so easily. so you just have to be careful. Okay. All right. All set to solder. Okay, this is a super tight fit and a beautiful square. I'll let you guys see right through it. I'll put it sideways. Voila! See how gorgeous that is? It's just gonna fit burnishing. I'm gonna really have to work it in there deeply, but I can also see in the back is that I have a little bit of, it's just gonna be touching the bottom. So I was just trying it out on top of my piece right here. So now I have to punch out the, you know, since it is such an exact fit, I have to be so careful. So I'm just gonna push it out very as gentle as I can so I don't get my bezel out of place, and I'm gonna set it down. This should all be perfect. See how flush and beautiful it's sitting? That means that I'm doing it right. I'm gonna give it a little spritz of flux, and from the inside, I'm gonna take my mediums. Sorry, you guys, I've got somebody next door. I'm gonna take my medium soldering chips.